Hey everyone, happy Sunday to you. So, we are going to be streaming today on Facebook and YouTube. So, thanks for joining me. If you are new here, be sure to say hi. If you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, be sure to hit that button and subscribe so you can keep up with future videos. And on our YouTube channel, you can hit the little bell icon to get notified for whenever our next video comes out. So today I am going to be making a scrappy pillow. So I have made one and I want to have two on my couch, so I just thought I would do the other. But since today is March 7th, 2021, I made my very first mask on March 8th, 2020. And the reason I even made that mask, just to give you a little background, was we hadn't really gotten the virus here. My one niece was in Sweden doing a study abroad program, and my other niece was going to visit her for spring break. She goes to UK. So I made two masks out of this UK print right here for her to wear on her trip to go see my other niece. Well, she never got to go on that trip, obviously. And um, I so I made those and I made like one extra just for practice. And then one of my customers came in and was talking about her daughter working at the hospital and they were having to reuse their mask, every 5 days, they wouldn't. So I was like, well, hey, here, let me give you one. So I gave her a mask because I was like, yeah, my niece, I kind of made this as a joke. Then I posted a picture of them on Facebook. I made about five of them, five or six. And all of a sudden, very quickly, they were gone. I'm like, uh-oh. And then I got a message and someone's like, can you make me 50 of these? I was like, I guess. Um, so this was all exactly 1 year ago. So I made some. Well, then I started getting some crazy comments. So I took the picture down off Facebook because people weren't sure about it. And they were just like, a lot of nasty comment. I'm like, all right, I'm going to take this down. But also I was hearing that Facebook was shutting people down for posting anything and price gouging, all that kind of stuff. So then I was like, okay, maybe I need to make some of these. So I called my wholesale vendor and ordered some elastic. Finally, once in my life, I was one step ahead of the game instead of, two steps behind as usual. So I was ahead of the elastic game, thankfully. And I'd ordered some elastic. I ordered, a couple spools that had 100 yards on it. That's just how it came. And then I was like, maybe I should order some. A few days later, about a week later, I called back and I was like, I want to order some more. They're like, how much do you need? The lady that I talked to, she's like, I'm literally standing in the warehouse and hospitals are buying all the elastic we have, like, by the spool, like however many. I'm like, okay. So I ended up with 900 yards of elastic. A couple weeks later, maybe two or maybe even one, I don't even know. There was no elastic to be had, but I had it. So I was like, okay. So it was game on from that point on making masks. I, obviously had needed to wait to sell them, so I had them on my Etsy store and on my website. My website got shut down for making masks because they were regulating and looking to see if people were price gouging um, mask and hand sanitizer. So my website they took down for like 2 or 3 days before I got it back. So here we are, thousands of masks made later, and I've got literally like a garbage bag of scrap material. So I've been having a lot of fun making all kinds of scrappy projects. I did a dish drying mat with a little dish mat from the Dollar Tree. I just made a tote bag, which I absolutely love. I'm working on my quilt. I've made all the squares, but I got to finish putting the top together. So today we are doing a pillow. So this is going to be a quilt as you go and scrappy. So I will kind of just show you how that works because what I ended up using instead of quilt batting, just dipping into my scraps even more. I've got tons of polar fleece scraps that we use for our t-shirt quilts. So I just used a piece of polar fleece because it's basically like quilt batting. And just cut a bunch of strips. So I cut 2 1/4. Sometimes like jelly rolls are like 2 1/2. So you can really cut them any which way you want. They don't even have to be the same width. So if you want one 1 inch, one 2 inches, one 3 inches, you can just mix and match. Now I didn't have, some of them weren't long enough pieces, so I pieced together a couple of the patterns, and that just kind of made it even more scrappy. So that way I could use more patterns. And then I just kind of pulled, you know, I've got like holidays. You can see there's the turkeys, and then we've got the teens, and just all kinds of different ones that we used. And we've got tons of them. So this is a pillow I actually ordered off Amazon, and I'll put the links later on my YouTube description. So if you're looking for it, this is a 12 by 20, and I really like this. I actually got this insert back in the fall with a cute gingham pillow cover that we monogrammed for fall. But then I needed to change it, so I needed a new cover. I made it Christmas. Now we're done with that, so I'm like, you know, I'm gonna go with a scrappy one that I can keep out. So this is a 12 by 20 insert. And what I have done is I've cut, and I've already done one piece. I'll show you here. So we're just going to make one side, so this goes by a little faster. So this is one side. I think that's upside down. So this is going to be one side of the pillow, and I'm going to make the other one with you guys. But I used a piece of polar fleece. Now I cut this a little bit bigger than what I needed because I'm going to trim it up. So I cut this, I don't even know what this measures, like 13 and a half, 13-ish by 21-ish. But in my fabric strips, I think I made them all 13, but I'm going to trim it down to 12. I just wanted to have a little extra so that I can straighten up the edges once I'm done sewing all the strips together. But sewing it to the polar fleece and or to quilt batting is how we're going to do the quilt as you go. You do not have to use batting at all. You can just sew your strips together and do it that way. I just wanted it to be a little quilted-ish. Gives it a little more loft, I guess. So it's a little softer because we lay on these on our couch. So I've got a bunch of strips already cut right here. Got them pressed. And then I also have an invisible zipper. So those are the things you're going to need. So either if you decide you want to do the quilt as you go, so you'll need either polar fleece or a piece of quilt batting, an invisible zipper, and then for this, I think I'm using about 11 or 12 strips. And if just depending on how you need to put those together. So you can just get into your scraps. You can go buy a jelly roll where they're already pre-cut. So you can really do whatever you want. So it's just kind of fun to mix and match. So we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so let me look at these scraps for a second. So I'm going to actually sew left to right. So I'm going to sew down the left edge, and then I'll start and then sew them together because we're going to work our way across. So let me kind of look at these for a split second. I want to see if there's a, let me count what I have because I kind of had them laid out and then I picked it up and messed it up. Okay, so I've got a couple pieces. I'm going to piece these together real quick just to kind of show you. So these pieces are not long enough. So let me sew these together. We're going to make another strip real quick. And I'm just using a 1/4 inch. So I'll bring you in over here. And I'm just putting the right sides together. And then I'm just going to do the next one. Okay, so now this is going to be one strip, but two different fabrics. That way it's a little more fun, then I can get all my fabrics in here. And now let me look at my scraps here and see how I want to lay this out. Make sure I've got them in an order that I want to use. Because I'm trying to show as many fabrics as possible, just make it a little more interesting. I've got 1, 2, And like, some of these fabrics that I really like, this is scrap that I had, my son had made a pillow out of this years ago. So as I'm looking at these, I'm like, it's memories to me of where I got it, maybe what I used it for. Um, so it's kind of just a memory thing for me as well, for as many as we made. We've got holidays, you know, for something that was supposed to only last a few weeks, and we went an entire year and through all the holidays. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Let's see. I'm going to flip this one out, because this is the same piece, but I'm going to use this one since it's sewn together. We've got 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I think I'm going to throw this one in because I want to get some more color here. Okay, so I've got the order that I'm going to do, and we'll start sewing them on. So I'm lining it up with the top. Some of them may or may not reach. This is slightly shorter, so I'm not going to worry about that because I'm going to trim that up later. And even this edge isn't cut real straight, so, so I'm going to have to make sure I sew that straight. I probably should have straightened that up, but that's okay. Okay, so I just sewed the edge, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my next piece and we're going to put right sides together. And this is how you're actually quilting as you go. So I'm going to lay this right on top of the other one, and then I'm just going to sew down the edge, and then we will fold it out. So since we're sewing through all those layers, it's going to have the quilted effect. Okay, so I've got my little wool pressing mat right here. So I can also press. Now you don't necessarily have to do this. It's just personal preference. I may not do it on all of them, but press it open, flatten it out. And you're just going to do that all the way across. Actually, that needs pressed again. It's getting tangled up here. Hold on. There we go. And then we'll put the next piece on. So this is a little different. Oh, got one caught up here. Because normally you have all your excess out to the left, and it's actually all to my right. I'm sewing backwards a little bit, and then it'll work its way out. Now, if you just take this and you can also just kind of smooth it out with your hand. So it's just your preference if you want to press it as you go or not. But just make sure it is smooth. Just gonna push that over to the right. Now this one, this is the one I sewed together. I'm gonna press that real quick because I didn't press it after I sewed the pieces together. Now you can kind of determine one piece is longer than the other, but you can kind of determine, how much of one you want to show. If you want, you can kind of scoot it up and down because this is longer than what I need. So your placement on your ones that are pieced together, can add to your scrappiness. And you can determine if there's one you want to show more than the other. Oh, good. I ran out of bobbin, so let me pop another bobbin in real quick. And just smooth it out to the next side. And you just keep adding to it. press this real fast. I'm gonna put that. So this is gonna extend up a little bit more because I want to show more of the bottom one. So again, just showing you how you can adjust your placement on it. So we're almost to the end. Put it this way. I'm going to put this here. Part of this is going to get cut off. I don't even know if I need all that, but we've got a little bit to cover, so we're just going to sew it on. It may get cut off. I don't know. We'll see. We may shorten up each side. Trim it. I actually see a little section that I skipped right here, so let me stitch this. A little pocket that didn't get caught. Okay, so now we've got it put together, but see, we have to trim all this, but we also want to even it up. So when you're making a pillow, you want to cut it exactly the same size as your insert. So if you have an 18 by 18, you cut your fabric 18 by 18. And the reason is you want it to fill in, because a lot of times they're not exact, and that way it's nice and firm and full. So my pillow is 12 by 19. So I'm going to press this, and then I'm going to switch out here and move my mat and get my rotary mat out. So let's press this. Okay. Got it pressed. Let me move this right there. All right. Okay. Oops. Just nothing hit the tripod. So hopefully I can rearrange a little bit so I can show you how I even this up. Okay, so I've got my rotary cutter, got my quilt ruler. A quilting ruler is this like hard plastic, but you've got this edge. It's a little bit thicker so that you can run your rotary cutter right next to it. And we just want to straighten this up. So we have all these like crazy edges. So I'm going to straighten this up first. Let's see. Hopefully I got enough room here. We'll see if we can make it work. Normally I would do this on my cutting table, but for video purposes, we're gonna try to make this work. All right. So I'm trying to line up. I want to straighten this up. Okay. So I've got my ruler. And we're going to cut off all this excess, straighten up this edge. And I'm also kind of putting my ruler on one of the lines on my mat as well. That's pretty sick. I'll just shimmy this down a little bit. Okay, so we have a nice straight edge now. Now I want to measure the other side. So this mat is actually 12 inches wide, which is exactly how wide I need this to be to fit my pillow. So if I fold this back just a little bit, scoot this up. I'm not going to cut through that double layer. I'm just going to fold back just so I can see. So I'm using the lines on my cutting mat to kind of line this up. So I'll trim this section first and then we'll unfold it. But when you're on your cutting table, you'll have a bigger area. It's just a little mini mat that I have. And if your rotary cutter is getting dull, like mine, it may not cut through all the thicknesses. Okay. Let's cut the other twist of this. Cut these little threads. I clearly need a new rotary blade. Okay, so we've straightened up our edge, so it's now 12 inches wide. And then we need to make this 20 inches. And this mat is only 18. So I am going to have to go over to my cutting table real quick. And I'm going to trim this so that the width is 20. So I will measure it out, and I'll probably end up trimming off, kind of splitting the difference between the ends because I know it is a little bit wider than that. So give me 1 second. Let me go hop over to my cutting table. I'll be right back. Okay, we are back. So got this nice and trimmed up to measure exactly the same width as my pillow insert, which is 12 by 20. So let's bring that back over. Now let me grab my other piece here. And I'll drop my zipper. Okay, so the next step is we're going to put our zipper in. So this is an invisible zipper. And if you've never used an invisible zipper, you need to use an invisible zipper foot. So you don't want to just use a regular zipper foot. Hello, Libby in Indiana, close to me. Pamela is asking, says she got here late and wants to know what we are sewing the strips on. Pamela, I am using just a scrap of polar fleece that I have. So you can use polar fleece or quilt batting. Most people are going to use quilt batting, but I had scraps of it. And to me, it works just the same. Or you don't even have to. I just wanted to have, it to have kind of a quilted effect. But you don't even have to use it. You can just sew your strips together and do it. Okay, so I've just opened this. I'm going to press open my zipper a little bit. So if you've never used an invisible zipper, I do like an invisible zipper, but I want to show you this. Okay, the teeth on an invisible zipper, you can kind of unroll it. So the invisible zipper foot, what it does is it unrolls that zipper tape a little bit to sew real close to that. But it will also help if you run an iron over it a little bit and unfold that. Okay, see it curls like that? Hopefully you can see that. So I'm just going to run the iron over it and like unfold it so that it is still a little bit easier for that foot to sew, to uncurl that. So let me do that. So I'm just rolling it out and pushing the teeth to the right. And I'm just going to run the iron over it. Does not have to be perfect. It just kind of helps not be so stiff and then uncurls that a little. I think it just makes it a little bit easier to sew with. And then I'm doing the other side, which is going towards the inside. Just be careful that you don't burn yourself with your iron. Okay. All right, so I've got that. So what I'm going to do, now I do have some directional pieces. This piece right here has the faces on it from the office, and then I've got some dogs. So on this particular one in the Indiana, I do have a top and bottom. So you may or may not, that may not be an issue. But if you do, you want to make sure the zipper's at the bottom. Just heads up. Because that way it's going the right way. Now, I am using a 12 to 14 inch zipper. And Okay, so I'm laying this, I'm just eyeballing. If you want to be real technical, you can fold it in half and then match up the centers. I basically have about one strip at the end of either one. So let's see here. Let me grab my pens. Hold on. Okay. Oops. So we're going to put the zipper on each piece and then sew the pillow up, and then we'll be done. But you got to do this, you want to do it while the pieces are flat. So I'm just going to hold this in place. I'm just matching up the edge of the zipper tape to the edge of the pillow. And I'm just going to use about 3 pins. Just kind of hold it. And I'm going to unzip this as far as it'll go. Now, I'm going to be sewing it. Oops, knock that over. This way. So on one side, you might have your excess to the right. The other way, it'll be on the other side. So I'm going to sew it from the top down. And whenever you sew a zipper, you always need to sew in the same direction. So you do not want to sew one side top to bottom and then the other side bottom to top. It will shift. Even if you have a walking foot, just if you want to be sewing in the same direction. So you also need to change your foot on your machine. This is my invisible zipper foot. I don't know if you can see that. Put it in my hand. It's clear, so it's hard to show you all. But that's what mine looks like. So this little point right here rides down that tape, and that's what's pushing the teeth open, because it curls on those invisible zippers. So I'm going to put that on. Okay. All right. Let's come over here and put this zipper in. And as you get started, you might even just kind of take your fingernails a little bit and kind of push that back. And you're going to put that point of the invisible zipper foot, that point's going to go right up against where it's curling. And you want to kind of just hold it back and it'll ride right in that groove. So it's got a little groove where the teeth fit. I'm also using my finger to kind of push them open. So that just gives it a little bit of extra help. Take your pins out as you get to them. Okay, now you'll get down to where the zipper pull is and you just want to stop. And okay, so now I'm going to zip this. And I want to line this up. I don't think I have a top or bottom on this. Well, actually I do, because I've got snowmen. So, and they're directional. So make sure I'm putting the bottom of one side to the bottom of the other. And we're going to line this up. I'm kind of lining up the edges a little bit. But what I want to do is I just want to pin this, line this up good. So I'm going to put a few pins to sew this other side on. and we'll unzip it to sew it. Now, depending on if you have the same width strips, the strips may or may not line up evenly. That's not a big deal. Okay, so I've got one. Just wanted to get a pin. So I'm just pinning the zipper tape to the other side. And again, we're going to sew from the top of the zipper to the bottom. I'm dropping everything. Okay. I'm going to unzip this so that we can sew it. And so we're going to roll these teeth out a little bit. It will ride right in the groove and we're going to sew it right down. So let's go ahead and do that one. Okay, so our zipper is in. Let's get it zipped. And there you have it. Can't see it. Ta-da! Okay, so now we need to finish it. I'm going to go ahead and just press this for a second while I've got it open flat. And then we're going to fold it back up, and then we're going to pin our sides together, and we'll sew around, and it'll be finished. Okay, so now this is where you want to leave the zipper open a little bit because that's how you're going to turn it. So if you want to open it like halfway, so you can see the zipper stops right here. I want to start sewing right before that. Like it stops here, so I'm going to sew in about, I don't know, half an inch maybe. I'm just going to put a pin right here. And you don't need a ton of pins, just one on the short ends, maybe two across the long ends. People always want to put 40 million pins and stuff, but it just slows you down. You don't really have to do that. Okay, so now we've got the zipper tape stops here. I want to, it stops up here. I'm going to come down just a little bit more. So I'm just kind of put a little stop pin. New pin. So this is like my stopping point. So the zipper ends here, but I want to make sure it gets closed up good. And I'm going to stitch pretty close to that. Okay, so let me change my foot. All right, and close it up. Now make sure you did leave the zipper open because this is how you're going to reach inside and turn it. So make sure that zipper is open halfway. I'm going to take a few stitches. I'm going to back stitch I am going, if you have the feature on your sewing machine to have the needle stay in the down position when you stop, make sure you do that, the needle down. So I'm going to get to this corner. My needle is down. I've got enough. You either raise your press foot. My foot will raise just enough so I can swing the material around. Stitch up the side. Okay, the last thing we need to do is we need to trim our corners. So anytime you are doing a pillow, let's see, let me turn this around a little. We want to cut this corner off just right across the diagonal, because that way it helps you push out that corner and it's not as bulky. So do that on all four corners. So just right across the top, just like that. All right. Now I'm going to reach in here, open this zipper a little more. Okay. And turn it right side up. Put our insert in, and we'll be done. Libby says she wants to make one, but she's never put in an invisible zipper. I really like invisible zippers. Sometimes I actually think they might be easier than a regular zipper, but especially for pillows, it's nice to be able to take it off and wash it. I have dogs, so they, you know, they sit on the couch with us. That way I can wash it when they're covered in dog hair or whatnot. Okay. And one last press. I'm just going to pull this open. Okay. So here's what the two sides look like. And then you kind of have to manhandle your insert, squish it, shove it in there. And you want to push out your corners as best as possible. I use the end of my scissors, even though you're not supposed to. I do. They do have a point turner. And then once you get it in there, kind of puff it out. That'll kind of help evenly distribute that polyfill. Ta-da! So now we have our scrappy pillow. Isn't that fun? So now all those projects you've been making, you can just make a big bag, a stash. I would just, you can just cut 2-inch, 2.5-inch strips, and you can make all kinds of fun stuff. So I've been having lots of fun. But this just are my memories of mask making mayhem for 2020. And now I've got all kinds of fun projects for 2021. So I hope you all have enjoyed watching. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate you being here. If you haven't checked out my YouTube channel before, if you're watching on Facebook, be sure to check out all the videos we have on YouTube and hit the subscribe button so that you can find my channel again, or hit the bell icon if you want to be notified when the next video is. But I just think they're really fun. They're very unique. You're not going to find this in a store. All these fabrics, just remind me of, different places that some of them I've had like in the stash like forever. The Office reminds me of my son. I bought that for him because that's all he wants to watch on Netflix. He's probably watched the entire season twice. Indiana is for my husband, who is a Hoosier and an IU grad. I've got my Kentucky on here because I'm a Kentucky grad, and my Snoopy because I'm a huge Snoopy fan. And I got the Kentucky bourbon on there. Just some real pretty different fabrics. And it just kind of makes me happy. It's just really fun. So I'm going to see what other projects I can make, some scrappy things. So if you haven't seen the tote bag video or the dish drying mat, I'll try to put a link in that in the description as well. So you can check those out, and they're just some fun projects. So I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you soon. Bye.